Hello. Welcome in. Where was I? There I am. Welcome into the Crowded Booth. Happy Wednesday to you. College football is about 90 days away, and we are going to build up to the start of the season by talking more and more in depth as we get closer to media days. Lots of conversation to be had. And tonight we're going to take a look at 4 ACC coaches that are facing some pressures, facing maybe not necessarily job security issues, but there's expectations for these 4 coaches, I think, in 2025, and we'll see if they can deliver. Does it mean they're going to get fired? Does it mean that their programs are going to move in a different direction? Not necessarily, but I think there's interesting things to talk about, all of them and more here tonight. Will Manis is joining me. This is another edition of the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Welcome into the Crowded Booth. My name is Bryce Koon alongside Will Manis on this fantastic Wednesday evening. Trending in different directions for the both of us. Will is, first off, we put a little BTA in MLB The Show last night, so we stayed up way too late as adults, but it was a good time. Gavin was okay.
It was fun. I don't know if we should be calling it BTA, but it was a fun time.
It was something, right? It was something. There's that. Will got a nice 9 holes on the golf course today, and I'm over here, hashtag not an ad, checking out some Vicks Vapor Rub to keep the sinuses clear. So if you see me go to sniffing something during the middle of the show, that's probably why. Good conversation to be had tonight about the ACC. Will, this is a conference that I think we have long since said and documented that has coaches that, one, have to do a lot with a little. I think that's getting closer. Maybe the gap is closing a bit. But it's coaches that you have to be a really good coach to win in this conference and to be able to stay at the top. And, every single program does not have the financial means that a lot of these other programs do. Not every single program has, the resources, both NIL-wise and just from the talent base they're recruiting from, to be able to bring in the top-tier talent. However, there are some national contenders in this group. We're going to talk about 4 teams, one that I've included kind of as a dark horse if things go right, and then 3 teams, or I guess 2 other teams, one team that has to bounce back, and then 2 teams that I think kind of in a different spot. They have a lot of talent, but will they be able to capitalize? So without further ado, how'd you play? What was the final score on the scorecard today?
It was rough. It was rough. It was probably the first time I played in at least a year. Got in 9 holes, shot a cool 54. So not great, but, first time in over a year, I feel pretty good about
it. Well, you're getting ready for Biloxi, and that's what you're building to. So, this is like when guys are building towards Augusta, right? That's your mentality. Hey, this is just a practice round, trying to get back into the swing of things. And, Will's going to come out there and shoot a 76 on 18 holes in Biloxi. So it's –
It'd be unprecedented.
You're 10 days away, right? 10, but I guess so.
Yeah. Hold on, I got to look at it.
A week from tomorrow, you're headed down there.
Yes, a week from tomorrow.
So, your mic does sound a little wonky, which is,
I think that's just the norm now because
I think your computer hates you.
My computer sounds like it's about to take flight. And I don't know why, because the only thing running is Chrome and Discord. Maybe it's because Discord, and I keep getting noises from it. I don't know. I need a new computer, so donate so I can afford a new computer.
When you went and bought this new computer, this is more of a gaming streaming type of machine, right? Like this is supposed to be higher powered than what Ralph and I have in terms of the MacBook. He's got a Pro. I've got a MacBook Air.
Well, I think it's supposed to be better than your Air, but not as good as the Pro.
Is it supposed to have more dedicated WAM?
Dedicated WAM.
Dedicated. Yes. Okay, just wanted to confirm. We also have not heard from our good friend in a while, so while we collect our thoughts here, just hear from our good friend who his channel was sadly disbanded.
So you know where I live, so come get some, like for real. I'm just gonna be honest, man. Y'all want something done so bad, come get some. Y'all take care. God bless.
I think I'm just going to start tweeting that at people whenever they try to dispute anything I say on the sports side of things. I'm just going to start tweeting that video. So, like for
That's-
real.
That's what I want to tell my computer to come get some, because it is so irritating.
Yeah, I like it. That's fine though. Okay, so let's talk here a little bit tonight about the ACC conference. This is something that, look, I mean, we talked last year about what this conference could accomplish. It gets 2 bids in the playoff. This is probably still, with the right record, the right out of conference wins, a 2-bid league. I think probably will. It's going to be competing with that 4th SEC team, that 2nd Big 12 team, like the runner-up for the Big 12 conference consistently. To me, it's going to be one of those things where we'll see. We'll kind of see what happens. But very interesting conversation tonight. We've got 4 coaches we're going to dive into. Bill Belichick is not one of those, although I don't even know that. We don't have to talk about that because they just got a quarterback commit. And is it best if we just don't get into that?
Go back and check out what I said on Monday night. That's
We're posting that clip, by the way, on tomorrow morning.
That's along the lines of my feelings toward that
situation. All right, let's talk a little bit. Let's dive in to Dabo Swinney at Clemson. What type of pressure is on Swinney to perform in 2025? Will, we talked a lot about this leading up to when we went to Charlotte for the ACC title game, and I think we maybe had I know I at least had, and I think maybe you too, a change of heart in how we viewed Clemson. When you get a chance to see them up close, you get a chance to see how that program is run. You really have an appreciation for what Dabo Swinney's able to do in terms of keeping the team together. Last year, I mean, they had some really good things happen. We talked about it. Cade Klubnik had a really sneaky, really good season last year. But for Clemson, the kind of program this is a program that should be 1 or 2 in the ACC every single year. It should be a program that is vying for that automatic bid as of right now, the top 4 in the playoff. And it's a program, too, that should be in the national title conversation, I think. When we look at Clemson here in 2025, I have continued to say this over and over again. I believe from a talent perspective, especially on defense, this is probably the most talented team on paper that Dabo Swinney has entered a season with since the last year they had Trevor Lawrence. And that, you go back, what was that, 2020? So, it's one of those things where you have a roster, you have Cade Klubnik. Their receiving core has been revamped on paper. They have some guys. Yes, you lose a tight end like Jake Brenningstool, who was a really good safety blanket and a weapon for them. You've got some young running backs they like. But, Will, as I'm kind of doing some game prep already and looking at some way too early stuff as LSU gets ready to head to play Clemson in August, that defense is loaded. And when you talk about what they have, it's veteran talent that is at least 3 guys that are top 40 picks. You could argue 4 with what they have. They've got Sammy Brown coming back in that middle linebacking core, who's really a great playmaker. So I guess my question to you is, Dabo Swinney's not on the hot seat. They'd have to go 4-8. Is the pressure mounting as you probably overachieved halfway through the season? Because, look, projections always change, right? You get to the season, everyone's like, hey, Clemson's got 3 losses. What can they really do? They lose to South Carolina. Felt like they backed their way into the ACC title game. Do you get the sense that this is a team that could probably benefit, and Dabo Swinney could benefit from getting to the playoff and winning a game, at least getting to that second round?
Man, I don't know. I mean, you certainly see them on paper and think they should. I mean, this is going to be a team in 2025 that, if you just go by what's on paper, going to be competing for the national championship. I mean, they got to be one of your, just being conservative, top 7, top 8, contenders for the national title.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're talking about pressure. Yeah, I think that pressure is there for Dabo, but I mean, look at what he's done. I mean, he's the best coach in the history of Clemson football. I mean, there's no way, especially after last year where, it kind of felt like they overachieved because they finished the year so well, to win the ACC and make that playoff game. So, yeah, should they win a playoff game this year? They should. But, I think we'll have to see, was last year the best that we're ever going to see from Cade Klubnik?
Yeah.
Or can he grow on that, or can he sustain that into 2025? I think that's really the biggest question mark for them. Then you look at the running game, Phil Maffa not coming back, although there's like mixed reviews on him. But, and Dabo showing he can evolve. He went into the transfer portal for the first time ever.
Yeah.
All season. So maybe he is feeling a little bit of that pressure, or maybe he just got a taste of the 12-team playoff and wants just a little bit more.
They're a program that consistently sits in that top 15 or so, and they'll every cycle or so they'll push up, I think, into the top 5 of the country. I think the thing with Clemson for me, Will, is you talk about Cade Klubnik and you stay there for a second. It's how much better can he get, right? I mean, you kind of look at the stats last year, was just sneaky good, like really efficient, took care of the football. I think played within himself for that offense. And I think for a lot of people, we get caught up in this uproar of number 1 pick type of talent. And look, the NFL draft, I think, skews a lot of the viewpoints of how good a college player really is because of need and reach and things like that. I don't know where Cade Klubnik is going to go in the NFL draft in 2026, but I don't think he has to be a Heisman Trophy finalist for Clemson to make the playoffs. Like, I think he plays well within the system with Garrett Riley has. They've got some playmakers. Antonio Williams is good. Like, a couple of the guys I was looking at, Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore, like that top 3 is pretty solid, like of what they have to utilize. So is it as simple as, and this is probably an overused saying, be the point guard, make good decisions and keep the ball moving, keep the chains moving.
Yeah, and you talk about how good that defense is. I mean, that's going to take a ton of pressure off this offense. I think if they can score 21 points a game, you're looking at 10 or 11 wins. I mean, seriously, like that's
with the perceived schedule we think they have. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if it plays out like we think it will on paper, they may just have scored like 20 points a game. I think that's how good the defense is. Now, probably gonna have a shootout week 1. You'll be there for that.
Yeah.
If they want to win that, it'll probably have to be a shootout. But that takes a ton of pressure off the offense. I mean, it's undoubtedly a national championship level defense.
Chen, talk about that defense. They obviously bring in a new DC, Tom Allen, who was the DC at Penn State. Will, look, you talk about making changes. Dabo moves on from a guy that I know you're pretty passionate about this type of mentality of one of his buddies and says, hey, we need to make an upgrade here. Tom Allen obviously had some monsters that he could utilize on that Penn State defense. But I'll tell you this, I don't know if there's a Micah Parsons. I don't think that there's a, Abdul Carter. I mean, all the guys that they had in that realm, but they got some dudes up front. And I think it's scary with a guy with a pedigree like Tom Allen of what he could bring in. I mean, how high, in your opinion, this could be a top 5 defensive unit across all categories, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the pass rush, you think is going to take care of itself. With Peter Woods, if he's on your defensive line, that he's going to be living in the backfield all year long. You're going to have to double team him. Every offensive line is going to have to put 2 on him, which, what that does, it frees somebody else up. And they've got depth across that line. Better than me. You've done more homework on Clemson than I have, but they're good. We got to see them up close. They got a lot of guys coming back in that front 7, especially on that defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be scary.
Yeah, I think, you talked about, obviously, Peter Woods. They've got TJ Parker coming off the edge. They added Purdue transfer Will Helt, who is a very, high floor type of player at Purdue, entered the transfer portal. To me, it is one of those things where you have a front 7 that can go get you. And I've said this multiple times to LSU fans, like LSU's rebuilding that offensive line. That's a nightmare of a matchup to go up against that type of veteran front 7 with guys who really have never played together, and you're walking into that environment. That's going to be tough. But I like where Clemson is defensively. We mentioned, obviously, Sammy Brown, Wade Woodaz coming back for his senior year. And then a guy that, obviously, you and I are probably familiar with, his brother, Avion Terrell, the brother of A.J. Terrell, who has emerged as a fringe day 1 pick when you kind of look at those way too early mock drafts. So when you talk about construction, Will, of the roster, I think the kind of last piece to the puzzle is the pressure's there because they have constructed this roster very well. Like, it's there because I don't want to say you don't have any holes. I mean, you got to get to games to really figure out what you have. But on paper, man, like, they went and got Will Helt out of the portal, like a guy that can help them. They just went and filled some needs, and tend to always have pretty good internal development from a standpoint of where they're not going to see a massive drop off. And I think that's where the pressure factor is. Not that he's going to get fired, but hey, this is probably the most talented team that you've had in a while. Cade Klubnik going into his last year, there's maybe a little bit of a reset when you go into 2026 to where you win the ACC. I think the pressure is to win the conference. Like if you don't win the ACC this year and you're at Clemson, you're Dabo Swinney, that's a massive disappointment for Clemson fans, and I think it should be.
Yeah, I agree. And Dabo, last couple of years he's done some what we probably call un-Dabo-like things. I mean, we all laugh about the Tyler from Spartanburg call, but I think that's kind of sparked a lot of this. I mean, Dabo going outside of his normal, it's for a long time he was just promoting guys up to coordinator or position coach. Goes out and gets Matt Luke. Right. Went out and hired Matt Luke, pulled him out of retirement, which we said at the time, that's a huge move. Goes out and gets Tom Allen to leave Penn State when Penn State was knocking on the door at the cusp of a national championship appearance. Talks him into coming to Clemson. So, the pressure's there because they should be so good, but also his career record at Clemson is 180-47. I mean, that is ridiculous to do that kind of stuff. But it's a ton of pressure to stay there. It's once you get to the mountaintop, it's hard to stay there, and that's I think where the pressure comes from, mostly internal, but just trying to keep up where he wants them to be and where he's gotten them before.
Yeah, I mean, I like Clemson. I think it's the pressure of sustainability, right? Like, can you sustain the way that you've played, sustain the way that you've recruited? And we'll see. Clemson LSU going to be a fantastic out-of-conference matchup there, week 1. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Okay, let's take a look now real quick at the next team on the docket. And, Will, this is a team that, man, you and I got crucified for saying that they could be good last year, as did every single pundit. And apparently this one little fan base, that don't knock that little fan base in Midtown Atlanta. They knew. They went to practices. They saw with their own eyes. And they didn't just guess and get right. They knew it. So Mike Norvell in Florida State. Look, a year and a half ago now, Will, you kind of you stood on business with Mike Norvell in Florida State and were very critical of the way that he handled the exclusion of the playoff and obviously the embarrassment of the Orange Bowl. And I think at the time, even myself was like, you know what? Like, I get it, but, how much does that really matter? Like, will it flow in the next season? And you kind of said it might. Like, it actually might show you more how the brain trust of that operation works than just like, oh, we're just mad about this. You might have been onto something there, because a absolutely terrible season last year. They've purged the roster. They had some sacrificial lambs. Alex Atkins is in Baton Rouge now. Thank you. That was not his fault by any means, what happened last year. How much pressure? Like, I think it just comes down to, like, are you the guy? Like, who are you? Are you Jekyll or Hyde? Like, what is Mike Norvell at Florida State? Because it would be an overreaction. They went like 7-5. They were putrid last year. Like, it was so bad to where I don't think there's any type of overreaction you could have.
No. This is an interesting one because the pressure is not just on Mike Norvell. The pressure is on the two biggest new names that he brought in on the offensive side of the ball, which is Gus Malzahn to be the offensive coordinator and quarterback Thomas Castellanos. I'll start with Malzahn because last year, and everybody knows how I feel about Malzahn. I love Gus Malzahn. I said before the year he would be in New York City at the end of the year with KJ Jefferson as a Heisman finalist, and UCF was going to win the Big 12. That obviously didn't happen. So could not have been more wrong on that one. So there's a lot of pressure on Gus to kind of turn his career around at this stage in his career. It's really falling off really quickly and falling off a long way really fast. Which is interesting how he ends up at Florida State because Mike Norvell seems to be on the same path here. Just how quickly things can change. And Thomas Castellanos, just for kind of the way he left Boston College, it was very interesting that he just kind of quit on a team that was really competitive last year, and he probably could have won a couple more games if he would have stuck around and stayed as starting quarterback. So this is a program that even still heading into 2025, seems to be in free fall, like nosediving to me. They couldn't stay. Norvell could not get it stabilized last year. We'll see if the new names and new faces he brings in on both sides of the ball, because there's a huge overhaul of the roster and, a lot of coaches coming in, leaving and coming in. It just does not feel good. I really can't see Norvell making it another year unless they just turn things around and win 10 games, which I feel like could happen too, because there's a lot of talent on that roster.
Mike Norvell came out in a recent press conference and said that he thinks that Thomas Castellanos has all the tools to be the best quarterback in the ACC in the country. And, oh my gosh. Okay. I want to say this about Florida State, because we're going to have, a lot of different fans come into the show and obviously watch the content after the fact when we clip it up. But, I think the problem with this is that Florida State, you're a program that shouldn't have to hedge your bets on certain things. That's a program that should be, in my opinion, should be absolutely top 15, top 20 in the country at a minimum of what they're doing. So, and I think that, Dev hits the nail on the head here. Obviously, no coach is going to call their quarterback ass. But damn. I mean, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it's a bold claim. You're going to pump up your program. That's for sure. But the problem I have with this is when you say things like that, much like you went on a rant on Monday, Will, when you say things like that, you're opening up backdoor criticism. You're opening up criticism to the fact of how tone deaf do you have to be able to say that? So it's a balance of how much do you trust Thomas Castellanos at the quarterback position to what do you really think they can do. Now, look, I will stand on this because you and I watched it up close in 2013. Gus Malzahn did some things with Nick Marshall. I don't know if it's going to be the same. I think that's kind of
2014.
And 2014, yeah. I think there's a lot of things that you could like about what could happen. Castellanos is a good talent, but man, you're just hedging your bets. You're a program that is hedging your bets on bounce back candidates, if that makes sense. You're hedging your bet on a quarterback that essentially quit on his team. You're hedging your bet on an OC that got had worn out his welcome maybe a little bit in Orlando for what he was doing. So bottom line, man, I think Florida State could be better, but I want to tell you this. So ESPN came out with this, and look, we know this is obviously, David Hale of ESPN. He does a good job. He said that he thinks that Florida State could flip the script completely, an 8-win turnaround. So you're talking about going from 2-10 to 10-2. Will, if this team goes 10-2 this year, Mike Norvell deserves ACC Coach of the Year, regardless of what happens elsewhere. Because I think this team has talent, but man, I just don't know anything about this team that you're like, yep, this team can win 9+ games. And you kind of felt like you knew some things about that last year. I don't know what you have here. I just don't know what you have here that can make you feel comfortable. A lot of things have to go right for Florida State, I think, to win 8 games or more. And if they don't, the pressure's on. You're a program like Florida State, like I just talked about. You should be a top 20 program annually. Well, if he wins 7 games, do you move on?
I don't think so. I feel like that would be – you got to stabilize this program at some point. And 7-5 would certainly be a step forward. 7-5 is a record where you look at programs across the country, you feel like that's a stable program. If they win between 7 and 9 games, that's a stable program. They are, they're right probably where you expect them to be. And that's really what he needs. And, he went out and got a guy that's great at being slightly above average. Made $75 million on being slightly above average. So, I think it's going to be really tough. I mean, if they miss out on a bowl game, yeah, you got to move on. But if you're going 7-5, I think you got to feel pretty good about it. If you're Florida State.
Currently have 9 commits in the class of 2026, 23rd in the country. Wanted to go back and look at what Norvell and company brought in this past cycle. It's the 19th best class in the country. 13 4-stars and 10 3-stars. So it's a class that was top 20 this past year. It's outside the top 20 right now. You would imagine they probably try to finish in the top 25. Bottom line, I think that you just have a program and you've got a team that needs to put up or shut up because of the roller coaster that you've been on as a program over the past 2 years. I mean, the just opposite ends of the spectrum that this team has been on is quite nuts. So let's go to break real quick. We have got 2 more coaches that we wanted to get to here. One in Miami or in Coral Gables and another one.
Do we want to talk about the comment first?
Yeah, we did get I'm sorry about that. Zach Jones. Guess this is a watered down poor man's Haynes King, a little better at scrim, but worse decision making and worse passing, but much smaller too. He's a good athlete. I
think that's interesting because the numbers would tell me he's a little bit better than that. In his 8 games last year before he quit on his team, which you can say whatever you want about that. Castellanos completed 61% of his passes for 18 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, 1,300 yards. You know, if he plays out those last 4 games, you think about the trend of those numbers. I mean, we could be talking about him being the best returning quarterback in the ACC. Now, is he going to do that in Gus Malzahn's offense? That remains to be seen because Bill O'Brien, I think his offense is more modern, more pro style that, you know, really lets the quarterback shine. And, you know, it's a lot better than it was in 2023 where he completed 57% of his passes, 15 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. I mean, that is a huge step forward from 23 to 24. I would imagine he'd go back closer to those 2023 numbers, but just considering the offense he's stepping into.
Also, too, keeping in mind, you have 2 new weapons to work with. Squirrel White, definite down-the-field option, and then Big Deuce Robinson that transfers in from USC, physical tight end-like type of player that could help. Like, if they can hit on some deep shots in Gus Malzahn's offense, it is going to open up the run game for Castellanos, which is that plays to his strengths. So if you can establish that early on, something to obviously watch. But I appreciate the donation there, Zach. Okay, Johnny Reed says FSU's okay. I think they could win 7-8 in the bowl game. Matt says if he wins 7, he'll be gone the following season if he can't get 8 or 9. I think that's probably fair. 2026 is probably where you see, everything kind of come to fruition. So we'll see. We'll kind of see where we go here. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we're talking about Mario Cristobal. Hey, everyone. Bryce Koon here with the Crowded Booth, and I'm excited to partner with Milton and Drew McCluskey as they get on their new venture, the Cajun Cousins Company. It's an all-stop shop for some of the best food and atmosphere entertainment that you're going to be able to have, especially this fall as college football is right around the corner. What is Cajun Cousins Company? Well, Milt decided to start this business back in Columbia, South Carolina. That's where they're based out of. Drew initially joined him after spending some time with the Saints, but they offer catered Cajun delicacies such as crawfish boils and Aunt Dottie's jambalaya. They bring everything and they can set up anywhere. Look, folks, they're passionate about giving people a reason to gather and to get to the culture that they love so much. They're expanding that brand to the low country of South Carolina, the upstate area, and other areas of the Southeast. So, look, if you're going to throw that tailgate party or you're going to have a big gathering, reach out to Cajun Cousins Company today over at CajunCousinsCO.com to get that quote. Tell them the Crowded Booth sent you. We can't wait to see what they have in store this fall. All right, back here in the Crowded Booth, we appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate Cajun Cousins there as well. Well, let's talk a little bit about Miami. I found this interesting. I think it's important when you take and look and try to evaluate teams that you try to, and we try to portray this a lot, that you attempt to look at the actual factual information, not the unabashed banter on social media. Is the unabashed banter on social media, does it make it easy to make fun of or poke at certain fans' bases? Sure it does. It's not a realistic reflection, I should say, of where that team is. Mario Cristobal and Miami enter kind of an interesting space here in 2025. They're a team that has now his 4th year, have shown steady improvement from every single year. 5-7 in 2022, 7-5 in 2023. They get to a 10-win season last year, just missing out and going to the ACC title. A lot of people like to poke fun at this program, I think, just in terms of I guess, the money they spend relative to the on-the-field success, but they're trending in the right direction of that. So all things considered with what we're talking about here, it's a program in Miami that has obviously got a guy that was just taken number 1 in the draft in Cam Ward. They have replaced him with Carson Beck at quarterback, who I think is one of the more dynamic storylines of the offseason, because a lot of people tend to just gravitate towards social media and not really pay attention to what he did. Like, in a down year, it wasn't a great year for him. He was still good. Like, he wasn't bad. Like, when you look at the numbers, like, he was good. Decision making, he helped
completed
as well on that Georgia offense. The tools are all there for Carson Beck to be a top 10 quarterback in the country this year. Whether it happens or not, that's not a guarantee. Having the tools doesn't guarantee success. But I guess I'm kind of saying is, the pressure on Mario Cristobal, is it more fan and social media driven, or is there true pressure, you think, inside those walls to accomplish making a playoff? Like, there is, but I don't necessarily think it's as crazy as everyone thinks it is.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, you see Matt and Dev's comments about it. Yeah, everybody loves to poke fun at Miami, and rightfully so, because all we hear about is Miami's back. It's the back in the 80s and 90s when they were a national championship contender every year. But you got to put it in perspective. I mean, they caught lightning in the bottle last year with Cam Ward. They won 10 games. I think Mario Cristobal in Miami, this is more of external pressure than it is internal pressure. I mean, It's been a long time since Miami's won 10 games. I mean, Mark Richt did it. Right, he got 10, right? Or did he win 9?
I'll look and see. Yeah,
I think
you
he
might be
won
right.
10. But before that, it had been a very, very long time. So yeah, obviously they're building toward making the playoff. They've got to get over that hump. They got to win the games they're supposed to win, which is they've struggled to do. If they can get past that, you're looking, I think, at a roster and a coaching staff that's more than good enough to win a national title. And I think Miami knows that. That's why, a lot of this stuff about Cristobal's job security is more from people outside than it is, things that Miami's administration has said.
Yeah. To your point that you made, so Mark Richt won 10 games. They went 10-3, 7-1 with a loss in the Orange Bowl in 2017. Before that, Larry Coker in 2003, when they were in the Big East, their final year in the Big East, they won the Orange Bowl. They won 10 games. So, yeah, I think that just kind of bottom line with this is that I think a lot of the conjecture about Miami is this idea of Miami is back, which is very comparable to how Tennessee or Texas acted, and maybe Tennessee to a certain extent with that. But just overall, it's one of those
go
things.
Watch Monday's show. I mean, come on.
But overall, I think that the pressure on Mario Cristobal, like, folks, they've got top 10 NIL money. They're in Coral Gables. Like, they are in a hotbed of Florida recruiting. They're going to recruit well. They've got money. Like, the idea of an expectation, yes, of course they want to win the ACC, but I think the pressure in 2025 is like, definitely, like, you got to get to Charlotte. I think that is an idea of like where you want to be. You want to get to Charlotte. You want to not drop below, in my opinion, 9 wins. Like, and that schedule this year, is kind of daunting. Like, there's some things on that schedule where you're like, ooh, that could be interesting. They go on a road trip to SMU. I believe they play Notre Dame this year as well. So there's some games where you have, I would say, an opportunity to, one, fold or showcase, hey, everything the fans are talking about, not that the administration cares about it, everything the fans are talking about, we're backing that up on the field. The opportunity's there. I like some of the weapons they have. Obviously, they lose, Xavier Restrepo. They lose Cam Ward. They lose, a couple of running backs. They like their young core, Carson Beck at the quarterback position. Let's kind of see what type of weapons he has around him. And the Miami hype machine that people make fun of is Miami's, Kane Superfan 36 talking about how they're going to win the national title. Well, that wasn't a realistic viewpoint to begin with. So, that's what that is. I think you win 9, you go 9-3, make it to Charlotte, win that game and you're in. Lose it and you're in a, pretty decent bowl game. So I think in terms of Mario Cristobal, man, it's I just think it's overrated. People love to point to the mishap against Georgia Tech 2 years ago. They love to point to the mishap when he was at Oregon of the management and people love to point to the minority and make it the majority in terms of why he's maybe not a good coach. I think he's a good coach. Like you don't get a head coaching job. Be careful because will get mad about the most recent Auburn hire. You don't get a head coaching job if you're not a good coach. Like you have to do some things right. No, that's happened, But once again, it's the minority. That's not happening everywhere.
Hey, if you want the job at Auburn, just beat Alabama.
That's also true. That could happen as well. No, I like Mario Cristobal. I think there's some things there to where you look at it and you say, okay, they've got an opportunity to really, really showcase in some of those games. Like I go back to the schedule here, Will, the Miami 2025 schedule. Like when you just take a look at it, opening up against Notre Dame, you're hosting Florida, you're going to Florida State, you're hosting Louisville, you go to SMU, Syracuse comes to you, you're going to Virginia Tech, NC State, like Pitt. You avoid Clemson this year, but man, you got an opportunity to really make some statements as one of the premier ACC teams. So I think it's there. Any final thoughts on Cristobal, or is that pretty much where you sit with it?
Yeah, well, I think the pressure is really. I think the pressure is high. I mean, pressure is certainly there, especially you talk about that NIL commitment. They have the number one transfer portal class in the ACC, according to 24/7. Keelan Marion comes in from BYU, wide receiver. Probably going to be their number one receiver. Giving Carson Beck a better receiver than he got to throw to last year at Georgia. Defensive side, 2 new safeties, Xavier Lucas from Wisconsin, Charles Brantley from Michigan State, Zachariah Poyser at secondary, who had a plethora of SEC offers coming out of Jacksonville State. They are – C.J. Daniels coming from LSU, incredible athlete, wide receiver, big guy, 6'2" as well. So the roster's there. Can they get over the hump? I think that's the biggest pressure. And, I guess it really depends on how long how much patience they're going to have with Cristobal, to see if he can get over the hump.
We talked about that progression that they've had, right? They, 5-7 to 7-5 to 10-2. Like, I think you would have to fall back to like 7-5 for some serious concerns, because that's when you kind of go, hey, we've got money. Now we need to go get a guy that can take us over the hump. Is he the guy that just stabilizes some things? We'll see. All right, Will. Well, we're at the 40-minute mark just about of this show, and it's almost time, my brother, to talk about a program that I spent an hour or about 30 minutes talking about. Last night, talked an hour last Thursday on, but Brent Key and Georgia Tech. And when we were talking about pressure, look, let's just be real with it here. I mean, yeah, Brent Pry's under pressure. Tony Elliott's, I guess, under pressure if you care about Virginia football. Stanford, I don't know what the heck they're doing. Maybe Justin Wilcox is for the 3 fans that they have. But let's just be real here. And I want your unabashed opinion on this, because I think this is a talking point that we could really belabor in terms of what is the reasonable expectation of Brent Key and Georgia Tech. Okay, so I'll paint the picture and then you take it from there. You've heard me talk about this a lot, though. You get your rah-rah fan favorite quarterback to come back. Regardless how you feel about him in terms of talent, he means a lot to that team. I said, Will, on the show last night, I think that you can make the argument there's not a quarterback that is more integral to the success of their team and offense than Haynes King is with Georgia Tech in the country.
I would agree with that.
Okay, you have Jamal Haynes coming back, who, let's just say what it is, Ole Miss tried to go get out of the portal this past year, and very dynamic back. Hopefully you don't run him into the ground. You keep Malik Rutherford, which was big when you lost Eric Singleton. You've offset some things there. Offensive line, you got to replace a couple.
He's not good, though.
Well, that might be it. Yeah. But I think that offensively you've got tools. Defensively, you hire, Blake Gideon, who a lot of people are excited about from Texas. What type of pressure is realistic in your mind? And I already see the fan comments here just talking about, 8-4 or something like that. Like, I think it's important to understand, one, who you are as a program, because there's a big difference here. Okay, I'm going to break some news. You're not any of the 3 programs that we just got done talking about in terms of money, in terms of stature, and in terms of what is that 2 little word phrase we love, Will? Brand value. You're none of that. You got to understand who you are. So I paint that picture towards you. It does feel a little bit like an all-in year with some of the veteran talent that they have. where would you go? Like what is the realistic pressure or the not even hot seat meter? What type of pressure is on Brent Key to perform and win with this group?
I think it's hard to read because, when we talk about it, we draw parallels between Georgia Tech and Auburn with the way things work behind the scenes. And, what the tea leaves that we've, gotten to see, it seems like that there's not a ton of pressure on Brent Key to do more than he's already done. I mean, to be honest with you, at least that's kind of from where I sit. Everybody loves him. Everybody wants him to be there.
Yeah.
The decision makers, the powers that be.
Yeah.
They love him. They want him to be
Big
there.
Let's just throw it out there. Big Tex. Yeah.
He has done everything that he was asked to do from day one. He has stabilized his program. He's got him on the right track. There's no doubt about it. But, seeing the fan comments I expect that. And as fans, you should expect that, and you should expect more. But like you said, let's look in the grand scheme of it, the country, the ACC. Think about who Georgia Tech is. And I think realistically, you're looking for an above 500 record and making a bowl game. And, hey, if you win that bowl game, icing on the cake. I think that should be the expectation. But like you said, it feels like an all-in year. So probably less than 8-4 is really going to be disappointing. Even if you go 7-5, if you're one game off, you're going to be disappointed if you don't go at least 8-4. Because the veteran talent, you have one more year of Haynes King, you have one more year of Malik Rutherford. They're coming back. You think this offense is going to Jamal Haynes? You think this offense is going to be a world beater? And as a fan, you should think that. And they certainly have that potential to keep putting up a lot of points. They were really good last year when they were healthy.
Yeah.
When those three guys were healthy, this offense was really good. I think you got to worry about that. Haynes King's a guy that's been hurt nearly every year of his college career at this point. So you kind of almost have to expect him to get banged up. And like you said, he is so valuable to that offense. Everybody loves to talk about how great Aaron Philo is, but remember, the backup quarterback is everybody's favorite player on the team. He's the backup quarterback. What does this offense look like if he has to step in and be the starter? How much different is it? Because he is not the same type of athlete, the same type of player that Haynes King is. So you got to expect it's going to be different. But, to stop ranting just a little bit.
Oh, that's great stuff. Yeah.
I think if you go 7-5 and make a bowl game, you win that bowl game, get to 8-5, you got to feel really, really good as a Georgia Tech. We gotta don't expect too much, because when you expect too much, you get disappointed. Then you fire your coach, and then you end up with a guy that you have to fire mid-season in a year and a half. I've been down that road. So, Georgia Tech, that is not a road you want to go down.
Okay, so I've been watching some of the comments in the comment section as you've been talking, and I'm glad that you said a lot of the things that you said, because, well, it's okay if you're labeled as a Tech hater. I mean, Cristobal is very anti-Tech. We spend our own money to be at games, and we make an investment of talking to people inside the program. So we definitely hate it every single day that we have to do that. But I do want to point this out. It is an all-in type of year. And I think that and we talked about this a little bit on Monday, because of what you've done this offseason in player retention and adding around, like this year for Georgia Tech, they didn't really have to go and overhaul a certain group. Like, if that makes sense. Like, you felt good about some pieces right there. But you know what? You could pick and choose where you wanted to add. Now, defensive line, that's just a hard place to build anyways now, because if guys are good at the G5 or lower P4 level, they're going to move up to the top 20 programs. And I think that's just kind of a product of where we are in college football. It's just hard to keep those type of things there. Defensive back, though, you felt like you had some pieces there. You added some, but you've got a core nucleus of guys that you like. Defensive line, okay, there. I mean, linebacker, it's going to be probably a lot of the same guys. Running back, we talked about, you made some additions, but there's nothing that you're like, oh my gosh, we have to go do this outside of defensive line, in my opinion. So because of the offseason that you've had in terms of on paper and the fanfare around it, I think it has pushed the expectations on Georgia Tech to like I said last week, like, can you be a college football playoff contender? And when I mean that is, I don't mean that you finish with a ranking of a top 8 program. You just got to get to Charlotte. And if you get there, anything can happen. So I guess I asked the question of, if you don't get there, let's paint the picture. If you do not get there to Charlotte this year and you go, let's just be real, you go 7-5 and you win a bowl game to go 8-5. Like, I think 7's the floor. You cannot go below 7 wins. Would 7 wins be disappointing? But is 7 wins, Will, at Georgia Tech, a place where you fire a head coach? Like, that to me is, it's gone from, and let me say this, okay?
Sorry, I'm laughing at Dev's comment.
Dev says 75 is mediocre. I didn't slave away in a sweaty asbestos-filled building for 4 years for us to lose to Bowling Green. I think that the excitement level, and this is a great thing because people care again about the program, but I think that the excitement level has pushed people into this stratosphere of where it's like, hey, you don't operate like that. Like, you don't operate on a level where you can buy this coach out and his whole staff, by the way, where you've invested more money in a football coaching staff than you have in 20 years, and then go hire a staff that you really is going to move the needle that much more. Like, that's not who you are as a program. You need this to work out. I've talked a lot about this. Well, I mean, I know we don't want to cross over into the Auburn territory here. I just think there is, like you said, a warning and a danger when you start to have some stability and you try to build success, that you have a quick trigger in terms of firing. You have to know who you are as a program. And I saw coming out and say, this isn't a bum program. No, it's not a bum program, but it's not a top 20 program in terms of, facility, NIL. Like, it's not that. So I think, just bottom line, man, I think if you win 7 games, is it disappointing? Yes, it is. It is very disappointing. You can question a lot of things, which is not popular with this fan base, but you can question a lot of things. But man, if you think that this team going 7-5 warrants a brand new coaching staff, again, remember, you're not just firing a head coach. You are buying out the entire staff. I don't know. I think that's asinine, like, in my opinion. I think you have to know who you are, and I think it's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I just pulled up the schedule and looked at it top of my head.
You on paper, man.
I'm seeing 8 or 9 wins. I really am. Because, and let me get to this from Nico. Yeah, I also think that Will is genuinely speaking from a position of an SEC fan. Thinks that any program in the ACC not named Miami or Clemson has a ceiling of 8-4. No. I am looking at the rosters of all the teams. I think this Georgia Tech roster could do no better. I mean, if they go, I can't say they can't do any better than 8-4, 9-3, because anything can happen when you play it. But I don't see it. I don't see it. And then, like I say about Haynes King, he's been hurt every year. He is so valuable to this offense. Aaron Philo, yes, he got some playing time last year, mostly against, it was NC State, who was a disaster last year. Not trying to downplay that he had a really good game, but I'm saying that doesn't give me a lot of confidence that he can step in and replicate or even take the next step with this offense that Haynes King can. I'm looking at the rosters. Miami and Clemson, yeah, they have a higher ceiling at 8-4 because they have playoff or national championship level rosters. Georgia Tech doesn't have that right now. Certainly closer to it than they were a year ago, I would say. And getting better every year. It just takes time, and it takes longer. It takes more time at a place like Georgia Tech than it does Miami or Clemson. And that's just the reality. Yeah. So it doesn't have anything to do with me thinking that they can't because they're not called Miami or they're not called Clemson.
No.
I'm just looking at the roster on May 21st.
Yeah.
And obviously we don't kick a game off for 4 months.
Yeah.
So a lot can change.
Anthony says if we beat Clemson, we'll go on a run. Yeah, no, like that's your.
There's no doubt about it.
I mean, if you beat Clemson, the expectations change in the middle of the season too. You got to be in Charlotte. Like it does. I agree with you. I agree with you there. So I think that there's a lot of first of all, there's a lot of conversation happening in this. I think that Haynes King is a guy that is not the most talented quarterback in the room, but he gives you a chance to win every single time he takes the field. Like, I don't think that's up for debate. Like I said on the show last night, if you got number 10 under center, you got a chance to win the game. I really don't care who the opponent is because Georgia Tech's weird like that. They play up to the level sometimes, and sometimes they play down to the level of their opponent. But that being said here is when you are talking about a team that has done what they have done, like they have tried, by the way, Haynes King has been hurt every single year he's played football in some capacity. Does that mean that he missed games? No, but he has played injured or beat up every single game. That's what we're saying. When you talk about this program and that what they've done this offseason, like I said, they have gone all in terms of to help this nucleus that they have, which offensively is Malik Rutherford, it's Jamal Haynes, and Haynes King. So those are the three that you're trying to key in on, and then you want to build secondary pieces around to help facilitate the success of those three guys. So it's a lot of what we talked about. That's why the pressure is there, because here's another conversation to be had here, Will. Like, I think there's pressure not just to get – like, I'm not saying there's pressure to get to Charlotte. I think there's pressure for Georgia Tech to get out of this purgatory that is the middle of the ACC. Like the ACC conference is – 2 or 3 teams that you're like, yeah, like they're going to be big spenders, regardless of record, you've got teams that are going to be big spenders. And then you have about like 7 teams that one year could go 9-3, the next year they go 5-7, and all these type of things. So just in terms of that's to me where the pressure is can you get away from being dragged down into the mediocrity that this conference has at times? That's where the pressure is, because if you are, man, then hey, Brent Key is your guy to take you to the next level of whatever that is. So bottom line, I think that to me is where the true pressure lies with them, because there does need some type of pressure. It can't just be sunshine and rainbows because it was so bad before and now you've got a guy that makes you feel good about yourself. Never in my life have seen a fan base that is more falls into that than this one. But that to me is where the real pressure lies. Can you get out of purgatory of the ACC, the middle tier of that, the Virginia Techs, the Virginias, the NC States, the Dukes of the world, and say, hey, we deserve to be in the discussion of like the teams that are on the thumbnail, the Florida States, the Clemsons, the Miamis of the world. We deserve to be there. So it's interesting to me that I think the expectation level has – I mean, we got a little more time here. I think another piece to this, Will, is that the expectation level has skyrocketed. There's 2 sides of the coin. A lot of people are really excited about because they're diehard fans and they read everything, and that's what they tunnel vision into. The truth is, I think, that this is a program that still has not shown you under Brent Key that they can put a consistent product out on the field each and every single week. That's part of getting out of that purgatory. Now, I'll say this, and I see some questions here as well that we want to get to.
Let me get to this comment from.
Okay, go ahead.
You should try to further state your claim. You mentioned the program, GT, not the roster itself. Yeah, for 2025, I'm talking about the roster, but you want to talk about the program? Georgia Tech's all-time winning percentage is 58%.
They're above average.
Above average. So that's 7-5 or 8-4 every year. I mean, that's good. 58% is good. You talk 763 wins, 546 losses, but if you break it down to 1 year, 58%, you're talking about 7-5. So that's where Georgia Tech is as a program. They've had, claimed 4 national championships. They've been the best team 4 times. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since we could say Georgia Tech is one of the best teams in the country. So, heading into 2025, yeah, their ceiling is 8 wins, maybe 9 wins. They beat Clemson, you're talking about 10 wins.
I've said this. I have said this, I think, multiple times over the past 5 years of me covering this program. This is a team and a program that if you are a head coach, regardless of what you think as a diehard fan, every single fan wants to go to. I mean, Clayton says it every single day, 17-0, right? Like 17-0 every single year. That's what they want to do. This is a program where really and truthfully, if you win at a floor of 7 games a year and go to a bowl game and win it and maintain a top 30 recruiting class, you're not going to lose your job. Am I wrong in that, Will? Like, I think that is That's kind of the program. What it is like. This is a team that in one specific year has the chance to do this. And I've said this multiple times. Like, if you sit around the 8-win mark, okay, at Georgia Tech, and maybe occasionally every 3 or 4 years you have a group that really has developed well together, and you've kind of spent wisely in the portal, and you've done good evaluations to where you can challenge to go to Charlotte, that's good enough here, man. Regardless of what you think about as a fan, that's fine. Like that, they're cool with that. So I think not losing more than 7 games. Not losing, or not, I should say, not winning more than 7 games gets you in trouble. 7 games the floor here in 2025.
Yep, I agree with that. Nico said, "Will you say that Auburn's a program where 7 win gets your head coach fired, but that's historically your average?" Correct. Look at Gus Malzahn's all-time his record at Auburn. It averaged to 8-4, and that's why he got fired, because it's not good enough year after year.
People love to just poke fun at the Auburn aspect of this. We're trying, and this is where people get mad at us and call us anti-tech. It's because the expectation level from the donor base, from the fans, from the administration.
There you go, Clayton.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. So there's just it's an expectation to be great. If you're winning 7 to 8 games at Georgia Tech consistently and challenging for a 9 to 10 win season every 3 years, you're not getting fired. Like that would be malpractice, in my opinion, with the current state of what it is.
Auburn is 62% all-time record. How is 8-4 above 62?
What's 8 divided by 12?
That's 67%. Yeah, I mean, you're splitting hairs because you play 12 games. I mean, you win 9 games, you're above average. You win 8, you're below average.
Matt says this. He goes, if your team only wins 7 games a year, yeah, it's okay. But common, it gets old after a while making progression. How's it get recruits excited? Matt, you just hit the nail on the head of the entire Georgia Tech fan base. It's called apathy. That's what it is.
Yeah, and as a fan, you should want that. You don't want to settle for average. You don't want to settle for mediocrity. You want to continue to get better and compete with the best of the best. You want that. You want that.
But what we're saying, we're not talking about the fan perspective. We're talking about the people who pay the checks, write the checks, and pay the bills. Georgia Tech is not going to – I don't know what the buyout is of the entire staff. It's, I don't know what it is. They're not going to do that and then go hire somebody because Brent Key is only averaging 7.5 wins a year. That they're not going to do that.
Right. When did I say this?
No, we're just saying that it's a program. No one's saying that the fans should be having. We're saying that's what if you walked into Jay Batt's office and you were real,
I'm telling you, 9-3 cannot be your expectation. If 9-3 is your expectation, you're gonna be disappointed because historically you have not been that. That's why I can't have an expectation for Auburn to win 9 or 10 games every year. Auburn has never done that every year. Auburn averages 7 wins a year, 7.5 wins a year on average.
It's from a business standpoint. Exactly. Now, Nico says that 9-3 is the desire. For you, it might be. That we're saying
for fan,
you,
it should be. Now,
as a fan, it should be.
The people that write the checks, sure, that can be a desire, but is it going to be a deal breaker? It's not going to be. It's not going to be.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and we've said this. You just got done saying literally 10 minutes ago, this team could win 8 to 9 games this year. Yeah. They should. Like this, there is, to get back to the point, there is expectations for this team to challenge for Charlotte this year. Like it is. So I don't know.
If the people that are writing the checks do recognize the apathy of 7-5, now it depends. If we're talking about 3 straight years of 7-5, that's a different story. But if you're saying you go 7-5 in 2025 and they pull the plug, that's a disaster waiting to happen. And I've seen it happen. I saw it happen with Auburn.
It would
After
be
the
3 straight
2020
years
season.
of 7 wins. I will say that.
Say that again.
This would be, if they go 7-5 this
Okay.
year, it'd be 3 straight years of 7
Yes.
wins. But I'm not
Yes.
firing him after
What-
2025 because of that.
What? Okay, look at what did Brent Key inherit? What did he inherit? It's probably the reason why I'm not going to get what I want, and Hugh Freeze gets shown the door at the end of this year because of what he inherited.
Yeah.
You have to consider that too. Now, like I said, he stabilized the program. This program, Georgia Tech, is on an upward trajectory with Brent Key right. Yes, if he goes 7-5 every single year, then after 5 or 6 years, yeah, you should make a change.
Yeah.
But he inherited quite possibly the worst roster in the history of Georgia Tech football. I'm guessing here. But the turnaround that he has orchestrated, that he has led, is nothing short of incredible. Just in all aspects, play on the field, fan buy-in, the excitement. People, nationally, people are talking about Georgia Tech.
Yeah. Zach's got a good point here. Key has won 7 games 2 years in a row. Doing it again in 2025 would make his seat warm. Sure, there would be some pressure on him. Doing it 4 years in a row makes it hot. Only 7 wins out of 2027, fire him.
Yes.
Zach, that is exactly what I'm trying to say. Like that, exactly. If it becomes the norm, yes. But if you are a head coach who averages 7.5 wins a year, with occasionally getting to 9 to 10 wins and having that one special season, at a place like Georgia Tech, man, you're a really good football coach. Like, you're a really good football coach. It's can we judge Key this season since we have a new DC? Yeah, you can.
Mm-hmm.
There's no leeway for that. I mean, yeah, there it is. What it is. I'm just going to say this. I'm not going to say that on the show. I'll say it to you after the fact. But it is interesting. I think there's pressure on Georgia Tech to perform this year with the way that they've done. That was way too long of a 20-plus minute segment there on Georgia Tech and what it was. But
you knew it was coming.
I knew. I mean, that was whatever in the world that was. But, there's pressure for all 4 of these coaches to prove themselves. There's pressure for Brent Key to prove that he's more than just a stabilizing head coach. That's fair, right? Like, to say that you're more than just a stabilizer.
Yes, it's fair.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, you knew this was going to happen. You opened the floor for the Tech hater. So,
Sam Lord said the greatest coach in the modern era for Tech is Paul Johnson at a 57% winning percentage. We'll say, but we expect Brent Key to win 8 to 9 games consistently. Y'all, it's hard to win, man. Like, that's hard to do. That's really hard to do. And I'm just saying, like, yeah.
Nobody knows what the ceiling of the program can be. I'm basing it off of what they've done in 100 years of football. If Brent Key can keep moving up and raise the ceiling of the program, yeah, he's the best coach in the history of Georgia Tech football. But that's so hard to do. It's so hard to do. And Tech's already been down the road. They've hired the wrong guy. They just hired the wrong guy 5 years ago. Was Colin's first year, 6 years ago? They hired the wrong guy. Don't expect – don't get unrealistic in your expectations is what I'm saying. Because if you get desperate and you pull the trigger and go get somebody like a Jeff Collins that comes in and says all the right things, it makes you believe and then does nothing.
Yeah. I just want to say something to just round this thing out. And this is not what I'm going to say to you after the fact. I really truly do love talking about this team. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
It's a ton of fun.
It's a ton of fun to talk about them. People like Anthony Perez make this a lot of fun. Anthony always watches the show. We appreciate it. It is mind-boggling to me at some point how – well, it's not mind-boggling. It's a fan. You're a fanatic. You're supposed to be like this. Like, you're supposed to demand excellence. That's why Will is Mr. Scrooge, when it comes to Auburn football, because he wants it to be excellent. It is that. Just think from a 30,000-foot view, you have to know who you are, and that is what it is. And this is just, it's fun. Like I think it's a lot of fun to talk about this program, but I mean, I don't know what you want to happen at a place like Georgia Tech. Like I just don't know. I don't know what it is. You can have special years. It would take something, Will, to fundamentally change from the institution for this program to be a consistent 9-10 win team. Like it would take, let's just be real. It would, am I going to get in trouble by saying this? It would take Kirby Smart coming when he went to Georgia, Nick Saban when he got to Alabama. Like, now I'm not saying they need to go on a run like that. I'm saying it takes someone who literally changes the entire focal point of what you are, like how you do business, if that makes sense. That to me is what it is. Like, I mean, I'm trying to think of, Will, who's another head coach that is transformed? It would take a transformative head coach that would go down as one of the best head coaches in that conferences, or at least in the school history, to elevate this program and what they're about and what the people behind the program are about, for them to do that. It's not saying they can't be good here, this year, that year. It's just saying the expectation level of the fan base should always be high. But there's a reasoning with the money people of knowing who you are, and that's important, because when you don't know who you are and you try to be something you're not, that's when you get in trouble. So, yeah. So, Nico, I have no godly idea what you're talking about. I mean, I have zero clue what you're talking about, but that's fine. This is about your third or fourth different personality involved with the show as well. So it is what it is. So it is what it is. So, hey, we appreciate everyone tuning in. Thanks so much for watching. We will talk to you next week. Full previews, by the way, going to be long shows, full ACC preview, full SEC preview next week before we head to Biloxi. Dev says you got Orange County.
Where'd he go? Oh, no, he ran out. He's it's time for him to be running around and just.
You know what's crazy? We're sitting here trying to tell people we think this team's going to be good this year. That's the crux of the whole thing. Like, we think this is the year, like what we talked about. Hey, oh God, I'm going to get caught in this. If you could, and every 3 years, and you're a Georgia Tech fan, would you trade back-to-back 7-win seasons for that third year to be a year you could go to Charlotte? I think that's the completely reasonable explanation.
I mean, it's how I feel about Auburn. I mean, win 7, 8, 9 games. You know, and this was the norm for a little while. Auburn would win between 7 and 9 games in like every fourth year, because I think Tommy Tuberville did it a couple times where he would like have 5 offensive linemen, and by the time they were seniors, their fourth year, Auburn was competing for the SEC and won the SEC a handful of times. With the resources, the history of your program, these are things you got to consider, and you have to build. You can't expect a guy to come in and do something that's never been done at a place before. That is so rare that it's happened, but it's thrown in your face. It's all this talked about. Yeah, I mean, it's thrown in your face. You hear about Ryan Day, which I guess he kind of inherited it, but like Kirby Smart getting Georgia over the hump, Nick Saban coming in, transforming Alabama. That's what's thrown in your face and makes you think that it's easy, but it's incredibly difficult. And I think that's the point we're trying to make is you can't ask a guy to come in and do something that's never been done at a certain place before. That's not fair on him.
You can hope. And that's what's being a fan is. Zach says this key ceiling 8-4 with the occasional 10-2. Yeah, 8 that yes, 110%. And there we go. I want to see Key punch Pat Narduzzi in the balls in the ACC championship. Pat Narduzzi is in the ACC championship. Will, you can punch my balls. I'll say that. So it is what it is. I'm saying that 8-4 to 10-2 in 2025. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Love talking about this. It's a lot of fun. It doesn't make me mad at all. Like, I'm not. No. There's no gotcha moment here. It's just, man, it's fun. Like, y'all know this. Like, dude, before I moved down here, when I had to cover that program, it was ranting every single week. I mean, it was that's not any fun to talk about week to week. So this is a lot more fun to talk about. So there we go. We appreciate everyone for tuning in. Thanks so much. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Check us out on Monday. We're going full SEC preview, team by team, and then Wednesday, full ACC preview. We're picking over/under win totals. So that's going to be a lot of fun there as well. So I know some people are just great at that and they're elite, and that means they know football. So we'll see how they do. Will, this is the start of a comeback year for you, by the way. You let everybody down last fall. This is the start. That was best we don't get into that. It is best we don't get into that. So it is what it is. All right, we appreciate everyone tuning in. We'll catch you next time here on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.